As we continue with this next segment, I'd like to welcome everybody to Teaching Tuesdays. My name is Luis Espinosa from the Office of Evangelization and Catechesis. And today, the topic or the idea that we want to focus is on surrounding on Sunday and talking a little bit more about what is the Sabbath day. And so, one of the many questions that we've been asked before is why Sunday and what is a Sabbath? And so the first thing that I want to be able to share with you is talk and wrestle with these questions because they're important questions. Is that why do we come together? Why do we celebrate the Eucharist? Why do we have Holy Mass on Sunday? And the answer has to begin with that conversation of what is the Sabbath? So we need to understand the Sabbath. And to understand the Sabbath, we need to go back to the beginning. And so for us as Catholics, we need to remember that many of the things that we believe and that we hold and that we practice has a Jewish root in it. And so for us, when we talk about the Sunday, we need to talk about the Sabbath, but then we need to begin with the story of creation in Genesis chapter 1. So we look at Genesis chapter 1, we read about the account of how everything came to be, about how God created the world. We read in the first line that in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. This is the first line of the first chapter of Genesis. And so we know as we continue reading on this scripture passage that God took every day leading up to the sixth day when He created man. And once He completed that sixth day, He saw that everything was good. And when He saw man, He saw us as being made very good. And as a response, God decides to rest on the seventh day. And that's very important for us, that God, after 6 days of creation, He takes the seventh day for rest, for Himself. And so we go forward in the Old Testament, and if we go to the book of Exodus, we come to realize and find that in the time of Moses, God calls His people out of slavery, out of Egypt, and He takes them into the desert. And so as they are leaving Egypt, as they're leaving what they knew, comfort, security maybe, God sees how the people are responding to Moses. He knows what's in their hearts, what's in their minds. So God calls Moses. He calls him to the mount. He calls him because He's going to establish another covenant with His people. See, all this time God has been saying, I will be your God and you will be my people. And so that was the understanding that God had with the Jewish people, with Israel. And so as God gives Moses the 10 Commandments, He says, or we read in the book of Exodus, then God spoke all these words. And so we read chapter 20 of Exodus and following, we come to realize that He gives us these 10 laws, these 10 rules, this covenant. And one of those laws, which is the third commandment, it shares with us in talking about keeping the Sabbath holy. And what does that mean, the Sabbath? So we think back and look into what God had done as He created the world, created everything. He rested on the seventh day. So in a special way, the Jewish people, when they had gone into the desert, had forgotten about this, about the need to worship God, about the need to rest. And so the Sabbath for the Jewish people and for us is that day set apart so that we can worship God, but also so that we can rest, to be able to take care of ourselves, to recharge, renew, but also to spend time with family, to build that relationship with our family. Because most of us work maybe 5-6 days a week. And we need that break. We need that time to renew ourselves, to recharge. So then, why does this have an effect on us as Catholics? Because we read in the New Testament, throughout the Gospels, about that dialogue and that wrestle that many of the Jewish people had with Jesus. Because Jesus did many things, and he did even more things on the Sabbath. So we read throughout the scripture, throughout the Gospels, that Jesus and the disciples, Jesus and the apostles would do things that the law, if we think back about the law, the Ten Commandments, and some of the other writings in the Old Testament, that this law was written that they were not supposed to work. And they were given at least 39 specific things that they couldn't do. And so some of those things that Jesus and the disciples are being caught with is about going and collecting some of the harvest because they were hungry, or curing the sick. And so these things that were done on the Sabbath, the question is thrown out to Jesus. Why are you not following the law? And so we have to remember that Jesus comes not to abolish, but to fulfill the law. And so he gives them a better understanding of what the Sabbath was made. The Sabbath was not made for itself. Man wasn't made for the Sabbath. Instead, the Sabbath was made for man. And so Jesus, and we read in the Gospel of Matthew chapter 12 that the Son of Man, which is Jesus referring to himself, he is the Lord of the Sabbath. Again, hearkening and helping us understand that Jesus is the Son of God. Jesus is the Son of Man. Jesus has come to fulfill the law, and by helping us better understand what the Sabbath is for. And so for us in the church, the Sabbath is a time, yes, to rest and to do unnecessary things, unnecessary work. But it shouldn't be an excuse of not doing good, not doing those charitable works, and what we dare say, the corporal works of mercy. So Jesus comes to help us better understand what God meant when he gave these 10 commandments to the Jewish people. What he meant was not to do normal work that you would do Monday through Friday, Monday through Saturday. So then the question about why Sunday? Why is Sunday now considered, if I dare say, the Sabbath for us as Catholics, as Christians? We have to think about what happened and how Jesus, how the way of the cross led to his crucifixion and then to his resurrection. See, because as Catholics, we understand and we believe that Jesus resurrected on the first day. So we think Jesus resurrects on Sunday. So for the Jewish people, he resurrects on the first day, which is Sunday. But for us as Catholics, we understand and we know that the Sabbath was so important, being the seventh day, that in some sense, the resurrection happens on the first day, but it's also on the eighth day, to help us better understand that the seventh day is the Sabbath, but then Jesus resurrects on the eighth day, on the next day. So the Sabbath is seen as a prefiguration of what was to come, that Jesus was going to resurrect on the eighth day, on that Sunday. So for us in the church, we know and we believe that Sunday is the day of the Lord. Sunday. Dies Dominicae. So this understanding, this idea is that Sunday is also meant to help us better understand that, yes, it is the start of a new week. And so therefore Jesus comes, he knows about, he's a good Jew and he knows about Scripture. He knows that God began to create everything on the first day. And so in a sense for us as Catholics, for us as Christians, it's that eighth day that a new creation is made in him. He comes to fulfill the law. He comes to help us better understand ourselves and our relationship with God. And so Sunday is that day that we come together to worship God, to celebrate the Eucharist, and to do those corporal works of mercy, to live our life, to live our faith in the day-to-day things that we do, but in a special way on Sunday, as we worship God, as we take time to rest and enjoy the day with family, with friends, and helping to think about our relationship with God and with each other. And so one of the other things that we've been asked about the Sunday is, how do we measure time? And so again, like I said in the beginning or earlier, that we as good Catholics, good Christians, we do have a lot of Jewish roots in what we say and do, in that we have continued that tradition or that understanding that the day begins at sunset. And so that's where sometimes it creates maybe a little bit of confusion, because we celebrate the day of the Lord on Sunday, but following the Jewish faith, Jewish tradition, we begin to mark the day at sunset. And so that's what we'll realize, that many of our parishes do have the vigil masses on Saturday evening, or what sometimes is called the anticipated mass. And so for the most part in the United States, and especially in our diocese, that means that we can begin to celebrate Sunday already at 4 p.m. on Saturday. And so, especially when we have holy days of obligation, when we have Sundays, or we celebrate any other day, we may find ourselves that on the day before, on the evening, we will be celebrating already the next day. Remembering that again, that the day begins at sunset and it continues to the next sunset. So those were the three things that I wanted to focus on with you about Sunday, the Sabbath, and how we mark the day. Remembering that the Sabbath was not made, or that we were not made for the Sabbath, but instead the Sabbath was made for us to remember, to be able to set time aside to worship God, and to come together as family and to celebrate the joys that we experience in life.